after being able to talk with someone like Tats, it's also very refreshing for me to be able to introduce you to another wonderful friend of ours, Manong Lem Ignacio. Manong Lem is now 84, I guess, young. But he just came back from California, where he's lived for many, many years. And what is he doing now? At the age of 84, here's another youngster who has started to do another new life. He's formed a new foundation called Tinulong. And this is the non-profit side of what he is doing. He also has another side, which is to be in recruitment for people.
Overseas workers.
Overseas worker. This is Lem.
Good
Manong
evening.
Lem.
Good evening,
Bobs.
Bobby.
Before we start, can I just ask, you were in the States for how long?
Most of our lives, my wife went there when she was about 16 years old. I went there in my 20s.
Whereabouts?
The only place that you should live is California.
Unless there's fires or earthquakes, and I can think of several other reasons.
All right. We won't debate that.
Anyway, Manong Lem is really back now, and I met him under circumstances where I found out that he's very much involved in a museum up in Bororo, which is, I find out, in the town of Bacnotan. Is that correct?
Yes. In La Union.
In La Union. And I asked him what he was saving, and he's actually working with artifacts that have to do with the tradition of fishing. And it's actually another thing that you wanted to accomplish by doing this, wasn't it, Manong Lem?
Yes, the basis for the museum really is the rediscovery and the perpetuating and, of course, the preservation which lead up to the museum. But the basis for all of this is that I discovered when we returned that the culture has completely been gone, especially the values, which is really what we are about as Ilocanos in the north, or Iguruts in the Calderuelas, or the Marawis in Mindanao.
So you're talking mainly that when you say culture, you're not talking just of the culture of the Ilocanos. You're talking about culture in general in the Philippines. Is that what you mean?
All the different culture, but as you know, just in La Union and the Calderuelas, there are 7 distinct indigenous tribes.
Okay.
In fact, one is not fully recognized by whoever are certifying those tribal units, the Bagos. And what is very interesting about, we felt that if we could do something along this line, that can be a prototype.
Mm-hmm.
We're not trying to do all the tribes.
Okay. So you're saying that just within that region alone, within the Ilocos region, there are 7 distinct tribes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you mind naming these tribes?
I can name all of that. I cannot name all of that. You have the Fugao, the Apayaos, the Ibaloys, all of that. But what I would want to point out in this interview is that also La Union is a microcosm of what we are all talking about. Actually, the Ilocano, historically, ancient days, Ilocanos were really mainly in Pangasinan. You could see that from La Union all the way to Zambales. In fact, bigger area than
That's true,
La Union.
yes, yeah.
So they took part of that, the Ilocano section, and put this in this new entity. Then what is very amazing is that the Calderuela, which are mountain ranges, is also part of La Union. And this is the point that I'm trying to point out here, is that La Union really is a fusion of the
Yeah.
Guruts
Yeah.
and the Ilocanos.
That's why it's called La Union.
Yes.
Because it was a
Correct,
conglomeration of
correct.
several parts.
You got it. You're
Yes.
better than me.
Oh, no, because I have antecedents in, well, we actually have a house in La Union, and
You
I'm
told
there
me,
all the
yes,
time.
yes.
And some of my antecedents are from Zambales.
Yeah.
And these antecedents all speak Ilocano,
Yes.
as my father does.
Yes.
Okay, so we're now concentrated here in La Union.
So in La Union itself, La Union really is very interesting because you have the sea and you have the mountains. In my house, when you get up in the morning, you see the sun rising from the Cordilleras.
Mhm.
And in the evening, at about 5:45, you will see the setting sun in, by the way, the West Philippine Sea.
You're concentrating on are we preserving or exposing the culture of this region,
Of La Union.
of La Union?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
But that can be a prototype of the different tribes in the Philippines, like the Aitas in Zambales, so many of them in Mindanao, throughout the Visayas, they're all scattered. And even farther north in the Cagayan
Yeah.
Confederation, Region 2, you also have tribes. But what's very interesting with La Union is that you really have the Ilocanos. Ilocanos are the lowland people. Then all that mountain range there are the Kankanai. That's the tribe that I'm familiar with. And so we're working on the shoreline, and my wife is developing a indigenous village in the mountain.
In the mountains?
Yes.
So you're covering
In
both?
Kankanai, which
Yes.
only 20 minutes from my house.
How lovely. So it must have been quite an arrival for when you and your wife came in to start this movement here. Is that fair to
Not
say?
quite like that,
No?
because we believe we're more American than Filipinos. We were born here and all that, and we came back and it was a mess. I wanted to go home
I
every
see.
day
Uh-huh.
for the last three years.
Uh-huh.
Dealing with all of this, bureaucracy and all of that, and culture has been lost. This is not the place to retire. But I could say to the audience that after 3 years, this is the best place to retire.
We think so too.
Just what we've been saying.
Well, hallelujah.
Manong Lem, you were telling me at one point that when you were starting this foundation, that you found that culture had changed so much even among the children because they were no longer making.
Yes, it starts with the children. Education, learning, everything that we know, it starts. They ask me why I have ideas, I have innovation, and I said, tell them, payo ng nanay,
What is that?
which is, that's from our parents,
Ah,
handed out through a generation.
yes.
And it's that kept us going, and that's what's going to keep us going until kingdom come.
But you're saying that the young people have really forgotten a lot of
They've
this?
forgotten the language. They have a different language. They speak, I don't know what you call it, in our area, Ilocano, Tagalog, English. When they have one sentence, there are 3 words there.
Yeah.
Different
There's 3
kinds.
languages right in one sentence.
During my time, we spoke English in the classroom, and we spoke Ilocano
That's right.
when we came out. We're losing the English language,
Yes.
yet that is the language of the world. We've lost it. But if you go to the Cordilleras out in the mountain, they're speaking better English than the Ilocanos.
Yes, I found that.
Yeah.
That that the
That's
English
that's
in the
not
north.
research.
Yeah,
That's a fact.
I know that is a fact.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yes.
You also told me though that the children learned to make a mano again
Yes,
from you.
and that's
yes,
the point. You started.
Yes.
We had a preschool to maybe about 4 years ago. Remember that Tinulong is a private non-stock corporation that's really financed by just my wife and I. So the projects come in and out, you know, the funds come in. And during that time, we had a preschool class, and I told the teacher, who was very, very creative and knows what she got the vision of what we're trying to do. And I said, if there's nothing else that they could learn, is to mano po, because that's lost. And I'm a community organizer by profession, and the only way that you could really teach not only the child, but the community is to start with the child. So the first 3 or 4 months, everybody that came to the building that is an adult, they manopod. Not artificially, but it became a habit.
Yes.
So then I told them that they should go to the homes.
Yes.
So they went, and about maybe 8 or 9 months after that, I went to Baroro proper, and also Tabuk, which is the next barangay, and they were doing mano.
Isn't that
everybody.
wonderful? So it's returning it back by doing
Yes.
instead of by teaching.
Yes,
Yeah?
yes.
That's wonderful. Manong Lem, can we just take a short commercial break and we'll be right back?
Thank
okay?
you.
This is Privilege Card.